The BlokeBusters podcast is proud to be a member of the Podbros Network. You can find us as well as other fine shows such as The Guy Huddle, Language of Bromance, and Dave's Nerd Compendium at podbros.com and on Twitter at Podbros Network. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the BlokeBusters podcast. Welcome to episode 61 of the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Paul.
Today we will be discussing the Revenant.
Yes, we will.
The latest bid for Leo to get a statuette.
Just a little statue. Just the one.
If it doesn't happen this time, I think he will quit acting. Let's root for him this time.
Yes.
First, though, let's get the nitty-gritty out of the way.
Yes, well, obviously finding us in places on the interwebs.
We're on this upstart called Twitter.
Yes, at BlokeBusters, Facebook.com/BlokeBusters. You can email us, BlokeBusterPodcast@gmail.com. We do have a nice little website, BlokeBusters.webs.com. And technically we have Google Plus, but I've done nothing with it. So that's...
We will also respond to fire beacons, ravens, any other method of communication.
Yes, and if you're somehow able to get a homing pigeon to us as well, we'll take that.
I prefer the Game of Thrones raven.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's fine.
Yes. Pigeons are stupid ever since Game of Thrones, Paul. Come on, get with it. I can't get it.
If it was good enough for World War I era people, it was good enough for me.
Okay. All right. How did this film... Well, how much did this film cost? I bet a lot.
A fair amount. I think a little bit more than we're ever going to get to see. So, directed by Alejandro Iñárritu, and I did... Yes, look up how to pronounce that, because this is a guy with many an accent to his name. Film cost $135 million, which I think they did quite well for that. Given some of the shots and stuff. And a box office of 29 days after release, $167,228,692 worldwide. And as I was telling Brian before we started, the first 2 weeks this was released, it was in 4 cinemas. Because it was released Christmas Day, and we think they basically said we're not going to bother trying to fight with Star Wars.
Yeah, you can't fight the Force.
Yeah. And so the third week was when it was over 3,000 cinemas, and it was number 1 in the box office.
So really, it's first week.
Yes.
I mean, say 4 theaters, but yeah, really it's first week.
So technically it made its budget back in, as near as makes no difference, the 2 weeks since then. So it's done quite well, I think.
Yes.
So, who's in this? You've got that little-known actor Leonardo DiCaprio as Hugh Glass, Tom Hardy as John Fitzgerald, Domhnall Gleeson, a.k.a. Bill Weasley, a.k.a. the guy that's running the First Order, as Captain Andrew Henry, Will Poulter as Jim Bridger, and I thought I recognised him, but I was actually thinking of a different actor. This is the guy from We're the Millers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope, yes.
So, interesting to see him in it.
Did not catch that one.
Yeah. Me neither, actually. And Forrest Goodluck as Hawk. And I'm hoping I actually wrote down the last name properly, because there's a bit of a squiggle there, so I think it's Goodluck.
Good luck.
And Hawk is Hugh Glass's son, with a woman of Indian descent. And when I say Indian, I mean Native American.
Yes. Forgive any terms we use. They are the terms that are used in the film. And
that is what I was going with.
Yeah.
And I don't even know the tribe name, so I can't even tell you that. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure I could.
But they mentioned Pawnee, even though they weren't Pawnee Indians.
Yeah, I think the Pawnee were one troop that they'd run into, and they called these guys the Re, but I have no idea if that was anything to do with their tribe or if that was just the term they were using. So, and I do think I looked it up once, and Re doesn't occur anywhere in the tribe name, so I don't know where that's come from.
Yes. I think, they just, they can't have a... I think there would have been a lot of backlash if they had said a real, somewhat ridiculous Six style.
Maybe this film can come on Netflix and just get rid of the ridiculous Six, I think.
Oh, that would be great if it could, have that effect. Oh my God, where do we dive in with this thing?
I'm not sure. Where do you start with this?
Well, I guess I'll go start off with, I went to see this at 9:30 in the morning on my day off. Well, my thinking was it's a 2.5 hour film. I'll get out by noon. I'll have most of my day.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just surprised you found a 9:30 showing.
Marcus. So my plan was I'll get around by noon. I can do other things. But then I thought, well, you know what? There are other movies I want to see. Let's just make a day at the theater. And I was going to see Hateful Eight, and I was going to see something else.
Did you see this one first?
I saw this one first.
Okay.
And I was
a little
just a little bit like I had gone through the ringer. I was so just drained emotionally and mentally. And the same thing happened. I got to scout these movies out better, Paul, because a week earlier I went to see Room, and I saw that with the intention of going to see another film afterwards, just one, and saw that at 2:00, and once again, just so emotionally taxing and exhausting, and you're just like, I gotta go home and absorb this. But The Revenant was, it is 2 hours plus of just visceral, raw survival. Not a whole lot of lightness into it. I'll get into some of those moments later, but that was my takeaway. Obviously I love the film, but...
Well, one thing I found really interesting was the lack of dialogue.
Yes.
Just how much it's just what's on screen.
There is a lot of grunting and groaning and pain.
Understandable,
sighing
what happens.
And exhaling. But yes, a spoken word, not a whole lot.
Especially, I say, after the first 20-25 minutes, not a huge amount of dialogue.
What would you say has more dialogue, Fury Road or this?
I was actually trying to think about it. I think, even going further than that, I think Beetlejuice has more spoken lines of dialogue than Hugh Glass does, and he's on screen for 18 minutes. That's a good way to think
of it. He's on screen.
Especially given how fast he talks, I think there's more dialogue said. Now, the only problem that I have with that towards the end was when he really does get his voice back, and he's having to explain what happened in the camp. I reached that point, I was like, well, okay, this is where it's maybe different than that, but I still think...
Up to that point, at least.
Yeah, definitely. Up until that 2 hours into the film.
You're just seeing his experience.
Yeah, really well done. And I found this out very recently. It was shot in sequence.
Really?
Yeah. Not done normally.
No, I can't think. There's one famous example, but I can't think of it at the moment. But very rarely done.
Yeah,
I can understand why they would.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't see that. Apparently, he said he wanted to do it in sequence, and then they said it would cost an extra $7 million to do it in sequence, and then they just somehow ended up being able to do it in sequence. So
okay,
that worked out for him. And also, he said, and this could be something else to point out. When I say he, I mean the director. He said, if we ended up in green screen with coffee and everybody having a good time, everybody will be happy, but most likely the film would be a piece of shit.
Hey, Adam Sandler, read that quote. It's not about your good time. It's about the art.
So this film, with the exception, like one notable exception, I would say, there's next to no CG elements to it, other than, I would imagine, probably a little adjusting of the shot here and there, just in case there are any problems with it.
Yes.
All done with natural lighting. Mm-hmm. Like, not a light stand to be found on this film set.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm sure, like, I didn't look too hard, but there have to be some continuity issues, but I certainly couldn't find them on the surface here on the first watch.
Well, especially if it's shot in sequence and given all of the long takes that they had. And there were times where you could see like a blurry swipe would hide a shot, or they would just kind of do that real close up of someone and then zoom back out. So it's like, okay, they could have done a swap there. But doing it in sequence with long takes, there's not going to be a lot of continuity errors because
I was just thinking of having to do a reshoot on a take, and then the lighting might have changed. Was more where I was thinking of, but I don't know. When he does a movie, he doesn't. Iñárritu doesn't do a whole lot, but when he does, I mean, he just knows what he wants. Like Birdman with the one shot look, and then this with in sequence. Yeah,
This guy is good at putting together a film.
Very much so.
Now, I did have a conversation going with someone in a Google Plus community. And yes, for those of you that are listening, Google Plus is still a thing. It was whether or not Birdman or this film is like whether you like them more. And I had to tell them like they're two so different films.
They're completely different.
Yeah, but like I do think that Birdman is slightly better paced and put together than The Revenant. But
Birdman's a character piece.
Yes, the set pieces are probably easier to put together and all that. But I just think that the pacing. Obviously, there were points where it had to be slow in The Revenant, but I just felt that Birdman was better paced. But the acting from Tom Hardy and Leo is better than anything that's in Birdman, I think.
Once again, I don't know. Apples and oranges. Tough for me to call on that because Ed Norton is so damn good in Birdman.
He is good. I'll give him that.
He's such a pretentious dick. I love him in that movie.
But I do think that when you're watching Birdman,
and Keaton, of course, it goes without saying.
Yeah, when you're watching Birdman, it is difficult not to just see, that's just Edward Norton playing over the top Edward Norton. That's Michael Keaton playing him trying to get away from Batman. Whereas in The Revenant, like it took me a second to realize it was Tom Hardy.
Even though I knew it was, obviously I knew of the cast, or at least the two main cast before the film, but I'm like, when he was on screen, I'm like, oh, is that, that's gotta be him. Okay. That's him.
Yeah, he disappears into the accent, and obviously the clothing and the beard and all that.
Help. Let's kind of, since he kind of went sequentially, let's kind of try to make some attempt at that. I have written down here bear attack. Pretty much the catalyst for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned before, moments of CG. I thought CG bear looked really good.
It did look really good,
and I thought it was pretty seamless into the real bear.
You
could obviously tell something wasn't 100% correct, but honestly,
Leo, if you're gonna go for it, like you
gotta get in there with the real bear. Come on,
do
you want that trophy or not?
I do think if he'd actually done something with the real bear, like the Academy would have had to have just mailed him. Like, don't worry about it. Here it is.
You don't even just show up. Yeah. He's like, no, I'm showing up. I got my speech. That was a very. Gore does not bother me at all. And that wasn't really, but the brutality of it, I thought was shocking. And then you think it's over, and it's not over.
The one thing I found watching it, and as you say, there's the attack by the bear. He taken by surprise enough that he's not able to get the shot off before the bear attacks. And the one thing I wasn't sure about was why the bear left him alone in the first place. Like attack, and it's like, I'm going to go over here now. Okay, sure. Obviously, he can't actually kill the main character of the film, but or she, I guess it seemed like it was a mother bear, and so it goes away, and so he very slowly gets himself back up, like grabs his gun, makes sure it's loaded, aims, and fires and doesn't hit, like nowhere near the head. It's more of a in the neck, which causes the slow bleed out. And again, like, I understand they wanted to have that. Like, he's getting even more hurt now, and he has to be immobile at this point. But given how good a tracker and hunter he is, I don't think he would have missed.
I think you just have to chalk that up to story.
Yeah, and I am willing to go with that because he needed to be in trouble. But yeah, that was very well done, and I think because they didn't try and do too much with it, and they were so close up. With a lot of close-up shots in this film, but because they were so close up and it wasn't as it would be in most other films, like 20 meters away, so you would see a lot of it moving past scenery, and you'd be, well, okay, so that wasn't that great. Like, they just had the real close-up of them, and that's why it looked as good as it did.
Yes,
and pretty much the only CG heavy scene in the film.
I think the wolves attacking. The elk or the caribou or whatever. Those had to be.
Actually, thanks for reminding me, because there's that scene where, and this is much later in the film, he goes over the cliff on the horse. That CG was about as good as the CG in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
So good.
and when
or unless I'm misreading you.
Well. Now, that's the thing. There was some good CG in that film, but I'm talking about the horse stampede where they're jumping on top of the horses. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, obviously, you're not spending a huge amount of money on the horses in this particular scene, and it seemed kind of the same as that. It's like, you had this bear that was awesome at the beginning of the film, and now you've just got basically the horse from, pick your Disney film here. Like, the slightly aware horse is just like, oh no, I don't want to go over this cliff. No,
it didn't bother me that much. I mean, it was over and done with pretty quickly.
No, that's the thing. Like, I'm just griping at it slightly because that's what stood out for me. But immediately after that's over, like, you're back into the real gritty. Like, he has to cut in. He's Luke in Star Wars, cutting into that tauntaun.
A lot of guts in that horse. A lot of guts.
That's surprising about.
So, you wouldn't think it all could be in that body, but oh boy, yes, I guess if they're accurate, it was.
And this is a genuine boon for the film. I didn't know if they actually did get a dead horse for that scene or not.
If not, excellent prop and set dressing then. If it wasn't a real horse,
I mean, as I said at the beginning, this film is very well put together. It was just the CG that let it down for me during that scene. But if that's all I had a huge problem with in terms of the aesthetic of the film, they did very well. So
yes, nominated for production design and visual effects for the Oscars. So
fair enough.
Apparently, they overlooked the horse.
Yes, they overlooked the horses.
Yeah,
but oh well.
I don't. Should we delve into the plot, the overall? I mean, we kind of glossed over that. Didn't really talk about it. I mean, it's not really the plot of the film. Isn't really the plot. Film.
The film itself is a revenge film.
Yes, it's a revenge and survival film.
So
that means that it will be the best film you see about pelts.
Yes, the best pelt film in existence
that I can remember in recent history. It is definitely top 5 pelt films for me. Maybe even top 2. And I'll let you figure that out. I don't want to dumb down the audience.
Yes. If you don't know your pelt films by now,
I'm not going to spoon feed you people. My favorite pelt films, but so that is essentially what comes off as the plot on the surface.
Yes,
these
very very basic plot, and when I say very, very basic plot, it sounds like I'm saying, oh, well, basically the plot... No, to be honest, the plot of this is very, very basic.
So are they, their army or Navy? Are they ever really identified as... They're military of some sort.
Well, sort of, yeah. I think basically what happens is there's this company that is getting these pelts and obviously getting them to sell, and they have hired some people to do a lot of the hunting and tracking, which would be the Glass character. And then the guy who is running the company has either ties to the military or is in the military himself. I mean, he's a captain. Yeah. Whether or not he was the captain of the boat or he's an actual captain in the military, I'm not sure. But yeah, so they have that in there, and then everyone involved in it. Everyone else isn't military, as far as I can tell, because they're just there for the paychecks. They all seem to be like
independent contractors or whatever. Yeah,
especially the John Fitzgerald character.
Yeah, so you get a lot of different people from a lot of different places. And,
and then the opening of the film, they are attacked by the Native Americans, and it seems as though every single attack is because somebody took a woman from their tribe. They have no idea who it is, so they're just going to kill everyone until they find her.
Yes, very good use of the term, I thought.
Yes, and so it's a thing where, given that I would imagine that the stereotype being that the Native Americans are very good trackers and they're able to hunt down them, it's like, wouldn't they know that this band of people didn't have her? Like, you'd think they'd know that, but again, they needed to be
getting a little more forward. I mean, hey, let's do some trading. No, you mind if we look around? Yeah. I mean, you don't have to just kill them all. But
my biggest issue with the film is how paper thin the plot is. I mean, it really is just... Obviously, there needs to be some plot to keep the characters going, but it almost felt like they were just like, this is just going to be a spectacle film, we're not going to spend too much time.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff might have been added or just stayed in, because some people could stick around to watch Leo just crawl on his belly for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I think other people need a little more.
Yeah, they need something
to break that up. I'd be fine watching that. It would have sat a little heavier, but if that's possible. But yeah, I think that's probably why that existed.
It was really interesting to watch unfold, because I'm watching the films like this film is beautiful. It's got some great acting in it, but my God, there's nothing to it.
Yeah. So I gotta go back to after the bear attack.
Yeah.
The other members of the hunting party or whatever find him. Presume he's not going to last a whole lot longer. He is bleeding profusely from the neck and from his back. And,
very, very true.
Broken leg or whatever.
Yeah, very true to humans and all that. They are trying to save him, even though they know the chances are it's not going to work. But they're still trying, with the exception of Fitzgerald.
Yes. So that's another plot element that I really found some trouble with, because Fitzgerald, up until this point, has pretty much been on record as hating glass. And this is the guy that the captain is going to leave in charge of his safety.
Yeah.
Is the one man that's like, I want to kill this dude.
Yeah, I do believe that... and again,
I had some trouble with that.
Yeah, again, trying to find some, maybe...
I know there's interesting things to happen, stir the pot a bit, I get that.
And I think probably the captain was thinking, like, okay, if I pay this guy enough, he'll put aside that, because he's always concerned about money. Yeah. That's what this guy's concerned about, which I understand back then, like, that's a thing, but this guy is obsessed with money.
Yes.
He's carrying the pelts that he's refusing to bury, because he's like, this is my money.
He wants his share, he wants the dead guy's share, and he wants extra for doing that, for watching over glass.
Yeah, this guy, I don't know how this guy ended up on the exhibition in the first place, if this was his attitude, but...
Yeah. So, I mean, a little late now to bring this up, but if you're apologies for any first-time listeners, but this is obviously a very spoilery type of podcast that we do here at BlokeBusters. Yes. So, if you're still with us, see the film, then listen to the podcast.
Yes. But to be fair, we haven't actually spoiled the end at all.
No, not yet. No,
we just we'll said some of the scenes.
Yes. So I guess that whole watching over him doesn't last too long.
No.
And then we get to the burial scene, I guess. Unless you want to touch on a point that happens before that.
Well, I was going to say that, and yes, definitely spoiler here. Some of the best acting in the entire film in the scene where Tom Hardy as John Fitzgerald is leaning over glass and saying, like, this is a glass who at this point can grunt and blink.
Oh, yes.
And he's leaning over him and just saying, like, okay, you know you're not going to make it. I know you're not going to make it. Everyone knows you're not going to make it. All you have to do is blink.
Yeah. Save your boy and blink.
Yeah. And you'll save us. Your boy will be fine. Like, you know you want to be out of this misery. Like, all you got to do is blink, and I will do this for you. And so you can see the Leo's glass just. I had to fight every urge to blink now.
Yeah, and he just maintains eye contact for like 30 straight off-screen seconds. Yeah. Like, where a person has to blink. Like, but he's going to read that as okay.
Yeah. And Tom Hardy just always still going as well. Just like, he'll just be like, just blink. Just
save your boy and blink.
Just blink. And then, okay, there we go. Although my immediate thought as I was sitting there was, wouldn't you just wink one eye, wink the other one? Like, you're winking, you're not blinking.
That moment gave me visions of Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood. Just the sheer viciousness of that character and manipulative powers, where, I am the one in charge here. The kind of the undertone. This is happening. You have no say.
Yeah, I found that scene for both of them. Like, that's the Oscar bait right there. That's
my Oscar bait for Hardy is when he's sitting at the fire with the Bridger, I believe, and he's talking about his father, I believe.
Oh,
and when he found God.
Yeah.
That was my Oscar moment for Tom Hardy. That was such an amazing performance.
He's got, there was a fucking squirrel.
Found God. Yeah. Oh my God, that was so good. But yeah, so so he buries him alive then.
Yes,
essentially.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting scene when it comes because there is first that scene where he's telling him to blink and Hawk turns up, so he kills Hawk, and then and as far as I could tell, all he did was drag him about 20 meters to a tree, and didn't try in the least to bury him or cover him with anything. Nope. And so his plan is that Bridger won't walk in that direction, I guess, or come from that direction.
Yeah, or someone else killed him. Come on, but
and it's interesting. Again, like I said, some of the plot paper thin, but that's not the reason this film exists.
Yes, it certainly makes up for it in the spectacle that you see on screen and the performances there.
Yeah, he does lie to Bridger to say, like, I saw the 20 down the road, they're coming this way, we need to bury this guy and go. And so he starts kind of burying him, and then he leaves Bridger to finish it, and of course Bridger can't he can't bring himself to do that, and
just bring himself to leave him.
Leave him with the water bottle. And which he had spent carving that little circle symbol,
spiral thingy. Yeah.
At no point do they ever explain why he did that. And obviously,
probably something he saw. Yeah, tattoo on a Native American.
Plot-wise, there's a reason that comes back later, as to why he did that. But yeah, he's just, you see him scraping on it at one point, and then he just puts it down. So, oh, there's a spiral on it.
For the story's purposes, so it's identifiable to the audience at a later point.
Yes.
So, is that the canteen? Oh, it has that spiral thing. Yep, that's the canteen. Okay. Unless they made more of them. No.
Hang on a second.
Paul has left me, and I'm going to sing on the podcast, and he's probably going to throw this in.
You know what? Yes, Brian. Yes, I am. So, yeah, I mean, I was just having a look over my notes, and it's, number one note I wrote is what I said, like, Leo better get that damn Oscar.
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to, I don't know, this is going to, I don't know whether this sounds ignorant or not, but I don't think this is his best performance in a film. I think he endured the most.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Obviously, for the film, in real situations, real freezing cold, and, spending hours a day, I'm sure, on his stomach, crawling around to get those shots, covered in mud and shit and snow.
Yeah, getting tied down to that straight. Although that was probably the easiest for him. Tied to the
so I don't doubt this is the most he's ever gone through, or the most he's ever been exhausted during a filming. But I don't think it is his best performance. That for me is still Gilbert Grape.
He was very good in Gilbert
and I think he should have had the Oscar for that. So I think this is going to be a career Oscar for him. Much in the way that Denzel got his career Oscar for Training Day. There's a ton of people. Scorsese got, what was... Oh shoot!
I don't remember.
He should have won for Raging Bull, but he won for
The Departed.
I believe so. Yeah.
And I was even thinking about Leo's stuff in this. Like, this wasn't even the first time he's had to be crawling on his stomach for a film. Obviously, that would be Wolf of Wall Street with the Quaalude scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which, again, he should have won the Oscar for that alone. But
yeah. Okay. I did have a couple of we might be coming off confusing. I think we both enjoyed this film, but we're doing a lot of nitpicky things. But and I'm going to continue with that.
I don't want to nitpick, but
yes, call back to what we talked about before. But that's exactly what I'll do. When he is able to crawl a long distance, he frees himself from the ground and. He is, unable to walk or stand or do anything. He can just crawl. Mm-hmm. He crawls to essentially a cliff edge and looks down and sees running water down there. Yeah. Cut to him by the water. How did he get to that water?
Very, very slowly.
Throw his body down there and break a few more bones.
It's just like, I'm already in trouble. Just
Princess Bride style. Rolling down the hill.
Or it's like the Monty Python Flying Circus scene where and real tangent now. Monty Python Flying Circus, they have a scene where they have two people sitting in an office and you just see a body come flying past the window and they're like, you just see that? What? Someone went flying past the window. Like, what? Like, someone just went past the window. Like, look, I'm trying to tell you. Someone just went, another one. Like, two people, three people have just fallen past that window. Like, and they go, oh, probably a board meeting. Like, oh yeah. And so it then cuts upstairs to someone writing a complaint letter to the BBC. Like, I have worked all my life in an office building and have never once. And then he's dragged off the screen and he goes, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining, like, the director came out to him and was just like, yeah, you need to get down there. Push. There we go. And they just didn't film that. The camera ran out of film, so they were like, oh, okay, well, now we're at this. But yeah, I think it was one of those...
That had to have taken like 2 days to get down there in that state.
I think it had to... It probably came down to... We can't show him trying to drag himself down this cliff.
Yeah. Or at least show like a brief cut of a path. I'm like, oh, okay, got it. That's how, or a slower descent down. That's how he must have gotten down.
Him looking over the cliff and going, oh no, and then looking aside, just a slope.
Just that sign, water this way. Okay. I have written down Neck wound. No idea why I wrote that down. I wrote it down in the theater, and I transposed it to my big notes. Don't know what I wanted to say about neck wound.
Neck wound. Okay.
Maybe the cauterizing of it. Is that plausible?
Yeah, because he puts the gunpowder in there and just... That was a great scene.
That had to feel really good.
Yeah.
But that tickled just a bit.
Yeah, and I found it interesting that they had him get his voice back after that, because that wound is exactly where your vocal cord would be. So... Yeah, I think that's going to sever them. Like, you're not going to talk again after you use gunpowder to cauterize your wound.
I'm pretty sure, your speaking days are over. Yeah.
But again, this is one of those dim plot points.
Yes. We talked about Hardy. I had just Hardy wow written down. I think, as much as I enjoyed Leo in this, I think Hardy stole the show for me. As far as giving the best performance in the film.
Well, he had the most to his character, and given that his character is just money...
He's just remorseless and soulless, and yes, only cares about him and his money. I mean... I was thinking of this while I was watching the film. Like, yes, I understand there has to be those types of people in this world at that time. Yeah, people that have learned that you have to... I mean, everyone, to an extent at that time, has to look out for their number one. Yeah. There's no law enforcement that's coming to help you in a few minutes. You all have to have guns and protect yourselves. But he takes it to such an extreme of where there is zero compassion for the fellow man, and
it was just, this guy will get me killed, so I'm going to kill him. That was the extent of it.
It's a simple equation in his head: him or me. It's not going to be me. Buy glass. So, as just heavy and just mentally taxing and emotionally taxing as this film was, I did find a couple of light moments in it. Okay. The first being when, is it Bridger or maybe someone else, that when they're leaving the Indian village, that drops some food for the Indian woman.
Yeah. He notices the one Indian woman still left alive, and so he just puts down a little bit of food for her and doesn't draw any attention to Fitzgerald. So. Yeah,
just drops it and keeps walking. I loved that little moment of kindness.
Yeah.
In an otherwise world without kindness.
Well, and to really hammer that home, there's a point, let's say about 2/3 through the film, where Glass comes across this random, possibly Pawnee,
I believe it is. I think you're going to hit on my second point.
And so he ends up being able to A, not get the guy to shoot him, and B, they share a little bit of food. He helps him come back to health a little bit. He even shelters him during this particular storm, gets nice and warm. And then he comes out of it, and the guy's hanging by a tree.
Well, before then, though, I thought, you did mention it, I thought you were going to, was them catching the snowflakes on their tongue.
That was a real cool...
And I needed that. I think everyone needed that.
Yes.
To break up the brutality and rawness. Something just a little bit. I don't recall if they necessarily laugh, but they're definitely smiling a lot.
Yeah, they do start laughing at some point. And it is just like the Pawnee. I'm assuming he's Pawnee. Yeah. So he starts just taking the time like, catch the snow, and so Glass starts doing it as well. And then it seems like they're trying to one up each other, and then it just becomes huge smiles, just a laughing break.
Yeah, it was. I was very much welcomed to have that little bit of lightheartedness and a little bit connection between them.
Yeah,
and then he's hanging on a tree.
Basically,
and then we're back to the movie.
Yeah, based on this film alone, all I can say is never ever get close to someone called Hugh Glass.
No,
nothing good will happen.
Stay away from him. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to side with Camp Fitzgerald. Shoot that fucker and go.
It's like, wait a minute, you're the guy who every single person you get any connection with dies.
Yes.
Bye.
You are people cancer. Yeah.
I mean, fair enough. Again, for plot's sake, he needs to have some hardship, but this guy doesn't catch a single break in the film.
No, not too much. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I thought, I saw things going south for that Pawnee, but not as quickly as I thought he would be with him in the story a little longer.
Yeah. Or at the very least, he would come across that guy being in trouble and maybe not be able to save him. But no, just to come out and he's just dead.
And it was really a Deus Ex Machina killing, in that you have these French characters who really aren't integral to the story at all,
no, at all.
But they're the ones responsible for this.
Yeah, and also, no reason. Like, if you actually think about it, they trade with this other tribe who, and it turns out, oh no, they were the ones that stole the woman from the tribe. Which, if you're thinking about it, well, yeah, they're the most obvious suspect. Why didn't they go straight to them? Anyway, but yeah, so they trade with the tribe. So why just randomly kill another Native American, especially?
Well, I think it's just blanket racism at that point. One of those Indians or Native Americans screwed us over and pretty much strong-armed our horses away from us.
Right. I mean, of course, they're French. So that's your latent British racism for you there, folks.
So that definitely bummed me out. I have a few other notes. I don't know if I need to get to them or not. I wrote down church ruins when the son visits him. I thought the visitations or the dreams were handled really well. When he dreamt of his wife, and then, we haven't even touched on it. He did have a wife and another son that were...
No, that was...
that was... What?
That was Hawk.
Hawk, yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, holding Hawk when... Yeah, but his wife was...
Well,
killed.
His wife was...
Sorry.
I was going to say, another son. Like,
no, not another son. But I meant with his son.
Okay,
sorry.
as well as.
Yes, yeah.
But...
And those sequences, and then the son visiting at the church ruins.
Yeah. I didn't fully understand exactly what happened to, because it just seemed like, was he living with another tribe, or were they living in just a random village, and that village was just randomly pillaged?
I think he was Dances with Wolves style, assimilated with the tribe,
right? Because it did seem just like.
It's never really touched on other than those flashback sequences or
and a bunch of people in huts, and who killed her? Like,
I don't know.
Again, just some guys in coats turn up, and kill.
But by and large, I thought the surreal aspects were handled somewhat well.
Yeah,
very well.
There was never a point where it felt as if like she actually was there. It was always like, well, this is obviously a dream of some description. So.
Yeah, and this is how my brain works. I always mentioned multiple times already how I connected to other movies in it. I thought of Braveheart, how well. I don't know if that's a film you like. That's not one you're big on, is it?
I have not seen it, and also my housemate at university will fight anybody that says that is a good film because it is so historically inaccurate. It's not even worth.
It's not a documentary. It's a piece of entertainment. So tell him that.
but if you are going to base it at a certain era in Scottish history, to completely fuck up that era in Scottish history is a bit of a amazing feat.
I will at least take this nugget and say that the dream sequences of that film were very well done, and that's what I thought of.
Fair enough. Yes. Well.
Moving on.
Dream sequence, you're allowed to do whatever you want with, so I have no ill will towards those.
Yes, but I thought they were well handled. I did have another question mark here. I don't know when this occurred, or sometime apparently after, because these are sequential notes. After the dead son visits him in the ruins of the church. Yeah. He, up until that point, has been, he is upright now and kind of walking with a walking stick. Crutcher of some sort.
Able to actually walk, but preferring to keep the crutch,
And somehow he is able to mount a horse. How the hell did he mount that horse? Once again, very carefully.
Yes, really carefully. I would imagine...
Unless that horse knows the trick of lying down. Because some horses can, lay, put their legs out and get as low as they can.
I think. Are you thinking of when he was escaping from the French camp, where
up into leading to the pursuit and then jumping off of the cliff?
Yeah. I think the idea is that he was sort of walking at that point, but still having some trouble, and.
Yes, the fastest healing broken leg ever.
Yeah, well, I think the idea of being in that weird steamy yurt thing that the guy put together. The idea is, he's treated his wound and he's doing the stuff which is supposed to aid in healing. So at that point, he's better than he has been, and also probably the adrenaline of I need to get the hell out of here.
So he Mr. Miyagi'd and went,
yep,
and rubbed his.
Basically, yes.
You're better now. Okay.
Yeah. It was.
He centered his chi and he's good.
Yeah, and yes, I'll grant you, he got on that horse incredibly quickly. But yeah, and a very well done scene as well, where he comes across the guy raping the Indian woman, and he holds a knife to him and then gives the knife to her.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
and obviously you never actually see anything, but you follow him as he goes to the horse to check the thing, and then you just kind of hear something, you look back, and the guy's going to die now. He's missing something.
And not the best way imaginable either. Quite painfully, I would think.
Although I would like to point out that if you actually watch the film, the guy is, again, maybe only 30 meters from the camp, a straight line from the camp. There is no way that if someone didn't just turn their head, they would have seen what was going on. Again, not really taking the plot into account at this point, but I think the fact that the guy got his comeuppance was enough to really dispel any problems with that.
So I do want to get into the conclusion or finale of the film. I think as we kind of are going to mirror the style of this film, it's shot sequentially, and we will try to record sequentially here, sort of, somewhat. But to what extent did you see the deception evolving as far as the body switch on the horses? Immediately. Well, once he looked at that tree.
Well, no. Basically, what happened was the second it was a body, or the second it was somebody upright on a horse in open ground, not him. There's no way that's him.
Yeah.
Especially since he knows this guy has a gun and is looking out for it. No. And I just saw the movie and then the feet, and I was like, he's the body.
But it did work because we got to see it from a closer distance, where it allows the audience to know that. But Fitzgerald is so far away that it is believable to him. Well, he's not a great distance away. But there's no reason, I think, for that character to suspect something.
But the way it was shot, I think that probably people that are still thinking at this point will know, okay, that's probably not him. But
it wouldn't be so stupid to ride in open ground.
And it isn't until Fitzgerald gets to the body and whips the thing back. It's like, oh wait, that wasn't him.
I did love that. Yeah, the sweep up. Yeah, the gun. That was great. And then the just utterly, I know I'm used this word multiple times, brutal final fight. Where I think maybe literally no punches were pulled.
I do believe the only thing that probably wasn't real was the severing of the fingers.
It is just the most violent, awful way. I can't even imagine. I can't even project my mind, which is somewhat creative, to think of what I could do in that situation, where that person is coming with you with everything they have. You're coming out with them at everything they have. This is going to end in one of you dying.
Yeah, if not both.
Yeah, if not both. Yeah, and just completely brutal.
Yeah. Now, and this is coming from someone that has watched Django Unchained.
Yes.
This film,
but this was more realistic violent, where Tarantino has sensationalized violence.
This
is very much grounded in reality. Oh, that sounds like a punch. That looks like that would bleed that much.
That person has now lost their two fingers.
There's no shooting a shotgun and the woman flying 300 feet backwards.
Still my
Say
favorite.
Goodbye to me.
My favorite part of physics defying in that film. Just
say goodbye to Miss. What was it? Sure. Or
say goodbye to Miss Candy. Bye, Miss Candy. Shooting from upstairs at an angle, and she goes straight backwards. Yep, that works.
Pull it out of the room like a vaudeville hook.
Basically, you've seen the scene in The Exorcist where she's pulled backwards, and they did it so hard that she broke part of her tailbone. Imagine that times 3. That's how fast this woman goes.
So so that is, I guess, the difference there. Where I don't mind this, but I mean, it was what the movie needed.
This is how this would have ended.
Yeah, that is very much. I felt this portrayed what those times must have been like, and
these are two people at the end of their tethers.
There's no one coming to help you. There's no one. I mean, essentially, when it's just those two, you can't think there's going to be outside help. Like, you got to figure this out. You got to win this.
It was such a great and brutal ending to a great brutal film, and then of course,
and then when he floats in,
he looks up and he sees the Indians standing on the other bank, and it's one of those things where it was slightly foreshadowed as well, because you have Tom Hardy character had previously been slightly scalped. But he had this great little bald spot, just off to the side a little.
Yes, please keep your hat on, Fitzgerald, because it creeps us out.
And so he does just. He's about to kill him, and he's like, "Nope, float." These guys can handle you.
I love that he didn't need to be the one to finish taking that life.
and also, if you wanted this guy who has killed your son and tried to kill you, and all of this, if you wanted that guy to die in the most horrible way possible, handing him off to the people he is the most scared of, for them to kill them,
to the people that shared half of your son's DNA.
It is cathartic, I would say. That's his, that's how he needed it to end. And of course, there was that thing where I believe the Pawnee gentleman had said how that it's God's will, will help. And I can't remember the exact line, unfortunately. And he just looks up and then aha, yes, that is indeed the case. Here you go. And I will say, maybe it's because I'm not great at faces, but I didn't realize until afterwards, when I was just double checking stuff, that the second person to ride past him is the woman that he saved earlier.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I did catch that.
It didn't stick with me, and because I figured as the film was ending, it's okay, she must have got back to the tribe, because they didn't then just kill this guy when they've been indiscriminately killing any white man they've come across. So obviously they found her again, but it just didn't flash in my head. Oh, that was her.
I think talking about this film has left me the same way as watching the film left me.
Well, and I'm going to mention it here as well, but the next film for thought that we're going to be doing, we're doing immediately after this, and it will be released a week or so after.
I'm excited.
We are going to be sitting down, watching and commenting on Kung Fury.
Yes.
So that's going to be
quite a departure from the Revenant. I can't think of two things that are more different.
So do look it up. It is on Netflix, at least in America. It is on YouTube for free.
Wish I had known that.
Yes. It is also on iTunes for $5 or whatever the equivalent would be in your region. So yes, do look it up and then listen to us as we as we watch.
Watch whatever the hell happens in that thing.
Yes.
I do have one quick recommendation, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
The night before I went to go see this film, I was looking for something to watch. Netflix wasn't cutting it, so I ordered a movie. And if you haven't seen this, I will make Paul watch this trailer if he has not seen it yet. But it is called Bone Tomahawk.
I have not.
Okay. It is Kurt Russell.
Okay.
Wild West. What Kurt Russell does the best. Kurt Russell being his Kurt Russelliest. Amazing. And once again, unflinching in the violence and just raw brutality of that time period.
Okay.
It is a tough watch. There are a lot of horrible things that happen to people in that movie.
Right.
And where any other movie would cut away, you see that impact. Or you see that evisceration or whatever happens. I mean, it's a rescue film. It's a Mario rescue your princess in the castle type story.
Okay.
But it's these Indian or Native Americans that are almost mystical. In their abilities. And so I watched that, and then I saw The Revenant, and then I killed myself. And now I have risen from the dead.
It's nice.
This is Zombie Brian podcasting from here on out, because that was a tough double bill. I'm glad it wasn't back to back, but yes, do check out Bone Tomahawk if you love The Revenant.
All right.
I think, are we going to do ratings?
We will. I'm just going to say we've had 2 responses to people just putting stuff out there, seeing if they would say anything. My mother has gotten in touch to just say, I loved it. So, with 4
Thanks,
exclamation marks there. And then also, I managed to get a response from a guy called Tony Southcott. On Twitter at TSOUTHCOTTE. He's the co-host of the Human Echoes podcast. Really cool guy. And he got a hold of us saying that it's going to be heartbreaking for Leo when Tom Hardy wins Best Supporting Actor and he gets snubbed.
Please don't even say that.
He said it felt like the effort was there for an Oscar, but the character of Glass was not deep enough to win. Now, I agree that most of these characters were, like the plot, paper thin, but I disagree that it wasn't enough for him to get the Oscar. Like that,
I think
he needs to, even if it's just a pity Oscar. He's got
he's not pity. He has deserved one by now.
I know, but that's the thing. Like, he's been passed over so many times when he should get the Oscar that at this point, if they don't just look at each other and say, we really need to give it to him, don't we?
Yes. I think you have to give it to Leo this year. If Eddie Redmayne had not won last year, I think that it completely changes things, and he should win for The Danish Girl.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, have you seen The Danish Girl?
I have not.
Okay.
I've heard good things.
It is, yeah. So I would think he would stand a very good chance at going back to back. Like, I think Tom Hanks was the only other one that did back to back.
I think so.
Was it? Forrest Gump and Apollo 13?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah. The correction department, get back to us if that's wrong, but...
Sounds right.
Yeah, so, just let the guy, come on. He can't keep it. He's going to have to, like, actually kill himself on stage via, spoiler, Birdman alert. Spoiler alert.
Pseudo-spoiler.
Yeah. Kill himself in a movie to get the Oscar posthumously, which I wouldn't put past him.
At this point,
if he loses
really?
Yeah. All right. I have no idea who should go first.
I don't know. I'll go first.
Ahead.
So, yeah, this is just obviously an absolute spectacle film, and the problem when it comes to spectacle films is there are so many areas that typically fall by the wayside just because you're just going to see it to see great cinema rather than to see a great film. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to go with gotta go for like a minus 1.5, I think, because the plot, paper thin, the characters, there's nothing to them, but the acting, the cinematography, the just wonderful direction, that's why the paper thin plot and the lack of character development really is not as big a drop for me. So
yeah, because the things you're describing would lend to like our ratings, like a -3 or a something like that. But
if it wasn't done so well
in all the other areas, I completely agree that what it lacks in plot and character development certainly is made up for in the editing and what you get to see on screen and what you get to experience with the Glass character. Which is obviously horrible things. but
horrible thing done very, very
done
well.
very well and looking very, very well. And just, him and Hardy, their performances, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to watch this film again, but if I did, it would be for their performances alone.
I would only want to watch this film again in a theatre setting. I don't think I'd want to sit down and watch this.
Oh my god!
I'd want the big screen again.
I would watch it in a rubber room with no sharp objects, and ready to have Austin Powers ready to go right after, so I can detox.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
Just something you can turn the brain off and giggle. But yeah, I didn't actually give a number there. Yeah. I was thinking right along those lines, -1.5, -2, maybe in an aged rating of -2. I don't think it. Well, I don't know. They extended I'm speaking of Academy now. The Best Picture thing up to 10 nominees, which I still don't like. So I understand why it gets. But if this was a 5 nominee, I don't think this makes it into Best Picture.
No.
I think certainly Best Director.
Yes.
Best cinematography.
Makeups and stuff.
But I don't feel like it is a Best Picture winner or nominee, as where I think Birdman definitely was.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, not Best Picture, but Best Acted.
Definitely. Can we have Best Acted Film? Yes. All right. Yeah. So I think that's done it for me.
I think that has to be it for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yes, you're hoping so as well.
Yes,
all right.
I've been Paul.
I've been Brian.
See you, bro. Bye.